Hello everyone and welcome to Daily News Simplified, your one-stop solution to detailed analysis of current affairs which are published in the Delhi edition of the Hindu newspaper. Articles dated 6th December 2022 are listed on your screen, and the timestamping along with the notes in PDF and Word format are given in the description box. So let us begin with the first article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 1st because Germany's foreign minister has recently paid a visit to India. Now, in that context, there are two important points on which we are going to discuss today. The first is about the oil price cap and the controversy attached. And going beyond that, we are going to discuss about India-Germany relations, more specifically the bilateral relations. Now, India recently, through the S. Jaishankar, that is the Foreign Minister of India, has defended its stance on buying the Russian oil despite the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Now, India has defended its decision to increase the intake of Russian oil despite the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war. Now, India has argued that it is because European Union has been one of the largest importer of Russian fossil fuels, even more than India itself. India is as of now just consuming about 1/6 of what European Union is importing from Russia. Now, India has been arguing on its own pretext because Group of 7, that is G7 countries, and the European Union has recently launched an initiative known by the term Oil Price Cap or OPC. Now, what is OPC? OPC stands for a withdrawal of shipping and the insurance services to those countries that are going to buy the Russian oil over and above the price of $60 per barrel. Now, Russia has been arm twisting the European countries through the price fluctuation in its oil. Russia has also warned the European countries to increase the prices of its oil if they do not stop supporting the Ukraine in the war. Now, as Russia has argued that Russia might also charge the same price to the other countries as well. Now, if India keeps on importing that oil despite the higher prices, India might also fall in the trap of oil price cap, and European Union along with G7 countries might impose an embargo on the shipping and this insurance services on India. Now, India's argument is absolutely correct because India is not the largest oil importer from Russia, and India's policy towards Russia has nothing to do with Ukraine. Meanwhile, on the pretext of this meeting, both the countries have signed the Comprehensive Partnership on Migration and Mobility. Now, this will help Indians as well as the German nationals to travel to and fro for the research purposes, study purposes, as well as work in both the countries. Now, from the pretext of UPSC examination, it is important for the candidates to understand India's important bilateral relations with major countries in the world. And as Germany is the largest economy in Europe, Germany-India relationship since the end of Second World War has been pivotal for India's outreach program. Now, based on the same, we are going to discuss on various areas of cooperation between India and Germany. Now, in terms of multilateral cooperation, both the countries have cooperated with each other on the expansion of United Nations Security Council, where India, along with Japan, Brazil, and Germany, is looking for the permanent candidature in UNSC. Germany has recently joined India's led initiative of Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, in which Germany itself has pledged for the transfer of technology as well as funding to provide the resilient infrastructure to fight and mitigate disaster. Germany has also joined India-led initiative of International Solar Alliance, where France is also the founding member. Under this, Germany is going to have more participation in the clean energy with special focus on solar power. Germany has recently outlined its Indo-Pacific strategy, where it has kept India's approach to be the center point for Germany's interference in the Indo-Pacific region. Now, as Indo-Pacific strategy is gaining currency in the outbound strategy or the foreign policies of major countries in the world, including US, Australia and Japan, Germany is no far behind in following the same suit to go in line with what India is aspiring to hold a larger position in Indo-Pacific region in order to counter the bipolar world where US and China can fight for the hegemony. As far as security and defense is concerned, so both of them have already signed the MOU on security cooperation. They have been conducting regular defense exercises as well, and they have created a dialogue mechanism including the joint working group on counter-terrorism, cyber consultation as well as joint steering group on disaster management. Now, as you can link that in 2020, Germany has launched CDRI. It has a direct link with what it was going through the joint steering group. Both the countries have signed the bilateral defense agreement in 2006, agreement on mutual protection of classified information, where they have also exchanged the important classified information on security purposes. Now, this sharing of the information has helped India's security agency to nab important international crime and criminals, including the drug trafficking, money laundering, as well as international terrorism. Apart from these two, there are minor other areas of cooperation, which includes the energy and the sustainable development. Germany has pledged to provide developmental aid of 10 billion euros till 2020 to support India's green growth plan, which includes hydropower as well as solar power energy. Germany has also agreed to support India on 7-point agenda, which includes the solar power, which also includes the hydropower as well as the distribution of efficient energy equipments across India. This includes the transformation from the fluorescent bulb to the LED bulb. In terms of economic cooperation, Germany is India's largest partner in Europe. Do not get confused with France or UK. Germany is the largest India's partner in European Union, as well as the bilateral trade between both the countries stood around $21 billion. Germany is also the 7th largest foreign direct investment source to Indian multinational companies as well as India's domestic market. Both the countries are looking into the areas such as artificial intelligence, digitization, agriculture, clean energy, e-mobility, urban development, and many other. Germany is an important element for India-EU Free Trade Agreement, including the Investment Protection Agreement. Now, for those students who do not understand what is Investment Protection Agreement, here is the easy explanation. Now, when a MNC try to invest in the other company, they require a certain basic investment protection for their business. For example, Tata Motors want to invest and create its own car in European market. But if Tata wants to invest, let's say $1 billion, they would like to take some guarantee and protection from the government in European Union. In that manner, the transformation of the money from India to European Union would be smooth, and there will be hassle-free and tension-free investment from Tata Motors. The same applies to those companies which are coming from European Union to Indian market. So for that, Investment Protection Agreement is signed between both the countries. FTA or Free Trade Agreement came into existence between both these countries for talks, but since 2013, the talks on Free Trade Agreement has remained more or less dormant. As far as diaspora is concerned, so there are over 2 lakh person of Indian origin who traces their origin from India, and NRIs or non-resident Indian who are as of now residing in the foreign nation but hold the Indian citizenship. They include professionals, including the IT professional, researchers, scientists, businessmen, nurses, and students. Student is one of the largest community who are residing in Germany and act as an important catalyst in the bilateral relations between both these countries. Now, when it comes to the convergence of interest, these are the following 5 points on which both the countries have common interest. The first is the pursuit of strategic autonomy. In a multipolar global order, both these countries try to support each other for their pursuit of strategic autonomy. While for India, strategic autonomy simply means the economic multi-alignment and neutrality on international conflicts. On the other hand, Germany tried to increasingly seek its strategic autonomy in European region. So, for India, it is Indo-Pacific as well as the neutrality. For Germany, it is the European Union. On the second front, they are reducing over-dependence to achieve autonomy on various fronts. For example, in the context of Ukraine war, Germany has been struggling to reduce its dependence on Russian fuel supply. Similarly, for India, it is to realize that it is over-dependent upon Russia for its defense supplies. So both of them are looking for achieving the autonomy. The third is the recognition of legitimate interest by both the countries. It is visible in all the agreements that were signed between both these countries that they are looking to set up the legitimate interest on various sectors as well. When it comes to the Indo-Pacific region, Germany was one of the first European countries to outline its Indo-Pacific guideline, and that too in 2020. Now there is increasing skepticism of the global community towards China and India, and there is a regional cloud that is surrounding in the European Union as well, that whether they would like to stand with India or not. But given that perspective, Germany has always stood by India in terms of Indo-Pacific. On the climate change, both the countries have been standing firm to fight against the climate change, increasing greenhouse effect, as well as to bring the mitigation efforts, including the renewable energy. India has the challenge of managing its energy security. And given the global crisis on the oil due to Ukraine-Russia war, India is looking more towards the partnership of green and sustainable development. And in this perspective, Germany is the topmost and the first priority India can look forward. Now, there are certain challenges which are standing as a hurdle for the smooth transition of bilateral relation. The first one is, like many other European powers, Germany is also susceptible to India and China's counter policies. Germany as of now is looking to de-hyphenate India and China. Germany is not looking into make China its enemy and India all-weather friend, or maybe vice versa. So what Germany is doing is that it is looking for the same strategy which many other countries are looking, and that is the de-hyphenate. They are dealing with India and China separately for the mutual benefit. Now this is not good sign for India, because India is looking for more all-weather kind of friends in European Union for its higher economic demand and energy requirements. The second is that there is an increasing tendency among the European country that they are staying away from calling China as the main issue with respect to the border trouble in India. Now, when there was a conflict between India and China on the Galwan Valley, most of the European countries, including Germany, refrained themselves in calling China to be the major culprit. So as far as India-China bilateral relations and controversies are concerned, India is not likely to gain much from the European countries. Germany, like many other European countries, have been one of the most important critics of human rights issues in India, despite the fact that the human rights issues with respect to the migrants who have been shifting from the West Asian to the European countries was much an issue in the European nations as well. And the last issue is that Germany has mostly focused on trade and investment to deepen its ties with India. But on the same side, Germany has laid down major and tough and stringent environment and labor standards that remains one of the biggest hindrances in concluding the free trade agreement between both these countries. Now, what should be the ideal way forward? In the current geopolitical status, both countries require each other for the economic and security front. Now, Germany is at the higher level of development stage and India is aspiring to achieve the same. At the same time, both of them are looking to go for energy security amid the climate sustainability. Given these important dimensions, these two nations should stand firm in order to cooperate each other on the bilateral as well as the international front. Given this discussion at place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 9 and talks about the educational journey of Bhimrao Ambedkar. Now, from the perspective of UPSC, in the mains examination as well as in the prelim examination, the contribution of important leaders with respect to the socio-economic development, with respect to the cultural and the religious development, as well as their participation in India's national freedom struggle is important. UPSC has least interest in asking about the personal life achievements of important leaders. So, from the perspective of UPSC, we are going to discuss about the important historical contribution of Bhimrao Ambedkar, which has relevance towards socio-religious, cultural development in India, as well as how he has contributed towards the upliftment of untouchables during the freedom struggle.
He was a chairman to the drafting committee to the Constituent Assembly. Do not get confused with the Parliamentary Assembly or with the Central Assembly. And he was a very good scholar who studied history and economics to a wider extent. He was a learned jurist, idealist, as well as the emancipator for social reforms. He was born and belonged to the Mahar community, which is also considered as a Dalit community in central India. After achieving good grades in his basic education, he also attained a PhD in economics from London School of Economics in London. As far as socio-political agenda is concerned, well, after going through the personal atrocities belonging to a Mahar community, he decided to fight against the social norms of casteism. He was against the caste-based discrimination and untouchability. Ambedkar was in favor of removing or annihilating or completely eradicating the caste system. He condemned the Hindu scriptures and considered that these scriptures actually propagated the caste discrimination or the inequality among the caste of Hindu religion. He was also part of the Bombay Presidency Committee that was working with the Simon Commission in 1928. Although he was not a member of Simon Commission, he established Bahiskrit Hitkarni Sabha to promote education as well as the socio-economic improvement among the Dalits. He also wrote some of the publications such as Mook Nayak as well as the Bahishkrit Bharat. He advocated the separate electorate for the depressed classes. That is one of the demands in the Round Table Conference, which later came across as a bitterness between Gandhi and Ambedkar, and ultimately led to the signing of Pune Pact in 1932, in which instead of providing separate electorate, reserved seats were provided for the depressed classes. Ambedkar also organized the Meher Satyagrah. Meher stands for the Meher community in 1927. In 1930, he launched the Kala Ram temple movement. However, they were not able to propagate this agenda to the fuller extent. This temple movement was in the demand to provide entry to the depressed classes in the higher temples of Hindu gods and goddesses. He also founded the Independent Labour Party, which also remains his core Labour Party for fighting the political elections. This later transformed into Scheduled Caste Federation in 1936. This was once asked by the UPSC also. He also considered the right to constitutional remedy, that is Article 32 of the Indian Constitution, as the core or the soul of Indian Constitution. He was very vigorous and very catalytic as far as Hindu Code Bill and its introduction as well as passage in the Indian Parliament is concerned. This core bill was targeting to bring the equality among male and female in Hindu religion. And lastly, in 1956, he converted himself to the other religion, that is Buddhism, and also started following and spreading the Buddhist ideas. He also started one of the separate school of Buddhism, and this was called by the name Navyan, that is new vehicle, which tried to bring more reforms into the earlier schools of thought under Buddhism, that is Mahayana and Hinayana. From the economic perspective, he advocated the free economy, that is laissez-faire. He also tried and advocated to bring more socialist-based capitalism in the countries like India, and also demanded the stable rupee vis-a-vis the pound and sterling. He was totally a proponent of birth control based on the demand scarcity argument. He considered high population to be a bane for the developing countries like India because higher population with lower skills and education creates more demand without income generation. And this creates the demand scarcity problem in developing countries like India. He was also awarded the Bharat Ratna in 1990. As far as his research work is concerned, well, this could possibly be asked by the UPSC also. This includes the thesis which he submitted during his programs in economics PhD. This included the ancient Indian commerce, national dividend of India, as well as the problem of rupee. He also wrote a paper on the caste in India and their mechanism. He also published a paper with the title Who Were Shudras? All these papers either focused on the economic development of India or the socio-cultural development. As far as his value system is concerned, well, this is important for your general studies paper 4. He was a democratic person who believed in peaceful resolution of the problem in non-violent and harmonious means. He also called for the spirit of fraternity, compassion towards the downtrodden, and the equality among the genders and different castes. These are the following important books written by Ambedkar, and the most important one being The Annihilation of Caste, which he wrote in 1936.
This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared in the text and context part, that is on page number 8, and talks about the important ongoing protest by the fishermen in the Vizhinjam port project in the state of Kerala. Now, the Vizhinjam is a place which is near the Trivandrum in Kerala, and it is under boil because of the protest which has been going on since the last 4 months by the fishermen of the region. And this protest is against the under construction port in this locality. Now, why they are protesting? The reason is simple, that over 300 families of fishermen who were living in the coastline region have forced to shift to the relief camps after their houses were destroyed. Now, why their houses were destroyed? These houses were destroyed due to the high intensity of the coastal region. Now, coastal region is very, very sensitive when it comes to the environment. Rising sea level is one of the reasons behind the coastal erosion. Now, according to the Kerala government, they have also argued that this erosion is due to the climate change and not the ongoing port development project. And they have denied to stop any construction activities with respect to the port. Now, this is a kind of feud which is being generated, and there is a kind of friction between the local fishermen and the state government. Local fishermen are saying that they require a scientific study to be conducted before the completion of this project. So as of now, the project should be stopped. It should be paused where it is. A scientific study should be conducted that whether the coastal erosion is going on because of the port or not. Secondly, they require a rehabilitation package so that these 300 families who have been shifted to the relief camps can get compensation. Apart from that, they have also demanded the minimum wages when the sea turns rough due to the weather, as well as subsidized kerosene for their boats. Now, because of these multiple demands, that protest has continued even today. Now, when we talk about the coastal erosion, as you can see on the screen, this is one of the instances of coastal erosion, where because of certain coastal activities, there have been the loosening of soil, and as the shore is countered by the sea waves, there is a high degree of erosion of the topsoil which moves towards the coastal area. Now, in the state of Kerala, there are construction activities going on along the coastal area, and because of these construction activities, there are two forms of negative impact on the beach. The first is the sea erosion, the second is accretion. Now, whenever there is a sea erosion, the top part of soil along with the sea waves get eroded, and moves more towards the water body. This leads to the erosion of the coastal area as well as the aggregation or the addition or the collection of sand far offshore area. This has actually led to the loss of life and property to the coastal areas, and this has been one of the case after the rise of sea level due to climate change. Now, as per the National Center for Sustainable Coastal Management, Society of Integrated Coastal Management as well as the Ministry of Environment, Thiruvananthapuram is one of the area in Kerala which has the highest level of erosion to the coastal area, amounting to 23% of the area. So 23% area of the Thiruvananthapuram in Kerala is subjected to the coastal erosion, and if an important port area is being developed, it is likely to aggregate further as per the fishermen. Now, what should be the ideal solution for such a matter? First of all, of course, the people or the families who have been affected should be rehabilitated and they should be provided cash incentive so that they can sustain their livelihood for the longer period of time. But apart from that, what should be the mitigation effort? How can government avoid natural as well as man-made coastal erosion across India? Now, according to some of the guidelines given by Food and Agricultural Organization, there should be coastal constructions perpendicular to the coast. If this is a particular coastal area, then there should be some kind of hindrance that should be created across the coast to avoid large waves hitting the coastal areas for the erosion. In this manner, government can create sea walls. As you can see in this image, this elongated part is a sea wall which protects larger waves and the heavier waves entering the coastal area. Apart from that, government can also create offshore breakwaters. Now, these are the small accumulated stones which are set up parallel to the beach area, and this actually prevents the large waves entering the coastal area and prevents the coastal erosion as well. Apart from that, there could be artificial headlands, beach nourishment or feeding, dunes building. So sand dunes can be built in order to avoid the water passage inside. Coastal revegetation, where plants can be grown on the coastal area or an entire belt of vegetation can be grown, and government can try to avoid large developmental projects which might alter the environmental sustainability of the coastal area. Now, as far as the location is concerned, so as you can see, this is the Vizhinjam port near the Trivandrum in Kerala. Now, why this port is important? Why government is so eager to build such kind of port in this locality? Now, from the location itself, you can easily see this is the area from a large part of sea trade passes to East Asia, Southeast Asia and up to Australia. It is located in the southern tip of Indian peninsula. It is just 10 nautical miles from the international sea routes. So if this port is developed, it is going to counter as the entry port. It is going to counter as the midway port to the large containers and shipment. It has a natural water depth of more than 20 meters. So government does not require heavy investment over here for building the ports. And it can definitely help in providing the maritime development of the entire country, especially with respect to the Kerala as a state. So given the perspective of both government as well as the fishermen, there should be the ideal balance which should be created between the development and the environmental sustainability. With this discussion in place, let us now move to the next article for the day. India is located in the middle part of Golden Crescent and Golden Triangle, the two important places that are known to harbor and produce one of the largest drugs in the world. And as India lies in the middle of these two important locations of drug trafficking, India is prone or a soft target because of its large population of youth, as well as the rising income and easy accessibility of the drugs as the main destination for the drug mafia. The recent report of United Nations Office of Drug and Crimes This report is titled as World Drug Report, and it has listed a sharp rise or increase in the trafficking of psychoactive substances, in which drugs are the most important one, smuggled to India. The Shan state of Myanmar, as Myanmar is one of the area of Golden Triangle. There's a Shan state in the Myanmar, and it is the largest producer of illegal drugs, which is part of Golden Triangle. It is also the world's largest producer and exporter of methamphetamine. Myanmar's heroin and meth. Meth is methamphetamine. It has entered India from 2 points. The first is the Morai in Manipur, and the second is Champai in Mizoram. These points are important for you to write in the mains examination as well. As per the recent survey conducted by the Ministry of Social Justice, drugs users have increased in India in the last 2 decades from a small number of 2 million to a gigantic number of 22 million. And this has even included the drug addicts who are taking over-the-counter medicines from the pharmacy. Now, as far as General Studies Paper 3 is concerned, so drug trafficking is a major internal security issue for India, as well as it has become a social menace in Indian society. So from the perspective of GS Paper 1 as well as from the perspective of GS Paper 3 in the mains examination, drug smuggling is an important issue. Highlighting the same, the Finance Minister, in one of the recent meeting conducted for the Department of Revenue Intelligence. Now DRI comes under the Ministry of Finance. Hence, it was chaired by the Finance Minister. So according to her, it is important not just to capture the middlemen or the peddlers in the drug trafficking, but also the masterminds who are involved behind this act. As far as issues are concerned, so why India is a soft target? Why it is increasingly seen that the drug trafficking is becoming more a menace for society as well as the economy. The first is that India is large in size. It has huge pharmaceutical industry. So India cannot deny the imports of important drugs across the border. And sometimes it happens that even through the legitimate imports, there's a small quantity of drugs which passes into the hands of drug trafficking. In India's northeastern region, there's a shortage of staff and the equipments to capture the drug trafficking on the porous borders. Then comes the beginning of the use of dark web, the web which cannot be accessed through the conventional devices. That dark web and the cryptocurrency, because cryptocurrency does not require the regulation of a central bank. It does not have any border related transactions. So both these have provided easy access and the anonymity of drug peddlers and the buyers. There's a nexus between drug trafficking, criminal networks of organized crimes as well as a terrorist group. As it was seen in the northwestern part of Golden Crescent, the terrorist groups in Afghanistan have been utilizing the drug and the opium through the sales in Indian for Indian youth and utilizing the same money for the terrorist financing. According to UNODC, drug trafficking is the second largest by volume when it comes to the illegal activities, only after the weapon industry. So both the industries are at the second and the first position when it comes to the illegal transfer of money. Drug trafficking are allying with the insurgent group in the northeastern states. So most of the insurgent group in the northeastern areas are utilizing drugs to be sold to the Indian youth and using the same money to buy weapons from across the border. And lastly, India, because of its poor location between the Golden Crescent and the Golden Triangle, has greatly been susceptible to the drug trade. Now, what government has done? Government created the Narco Coordination Center in 2016 for the better implementation and the coordination among different state agencies. Narcotics Control Bureau and the Department of Revenue Intelligence, along with the different intelligence agencies on borders, are doing well to prevent the incoming of the drugs from these two areas. Government has created an e-portal known by the term Seizure Information Management System for better coordination among all drug law enforcement agencies. Government has also created the National Fund for Control of Drug Abuse in order to provide the rehabilitation to the people who are under drug abuse. Project Sunrise was created for rising the HIV prevalence among those who are injecting the drugs. Nasha Mukt Bharat campaign has also been started by the government in this regard in order to prevent the youth from falling into the trap of drug consumption. And lastly, government is also looking for better coordination among its agencies, including the Narcotics Control Bureau, the Department of Revenue Intelligence, Central Board of Excise and Customs, Central Reserve Police Force, Border Security Force, Seema Suraksha Bal, Indian Coast Guard, Railway Protection Force and National Investigation Agency. At the international front, India has been the signatory of United Nations Convention on Narcotic Drugs as well as a Convention on Psychotropic Substances. India is also part of the United Nations Convention on Transnational Organized Crimes, which also includes the drug trafficking and the weapon trafficking. Even at the regional and the sub-regional level, South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, that is SAARC, has created a drug offences monitoring desk. BRICS countries have also created the same, and there's a Colombo plan for drug advisory program in South Asia, specifically to India. At the international front, countries have contributed together to create the International Narcotics Control Board. Now, what should be the ideal way forward? The first solution is effective coordination among different enforcing agencies. Coordination in illicit drug control is the function of NCB. DRI, of course, is the catalyst over here. Licensing function for medical and the scientific purpose are performed by different commissionerate. So if the coordination is very poor, these agencies are going to lose out to the drug trafficking agencies as well as the illicit manners. The next is the sharing of the intelligence should be briefed up. Many states and even the central agencies are working in isolation. Even the state police catches the distributors as well as the peddlers while the main handlers are going scot-free. So instead of focusing more on the peddler, there is urgent need to share the information for capturing the main perpetrators. Government should start focusing more on the source of supply rather than the final consumers. Final consumers require habilitations. Final consumers requires monitoring. The focus should be to find out the link between the distributor, transporters and the supply. If this link is enabled, it will expose the drug trafficking network which will kill out all the planning created by these drug trafficking agencies. The next one is the spatial skill and the dedicated units required for the same. Investigation of illegal drug trafficking is a specialized task. There is a need to develop spatial skills within state police organization which deals with the drug. Officers must be trained on investigation technique to track organized crime syndicates. The next one is enhancement of punishment under Illegal Drug Control Act. Punishments given under the National Drug and Psychotropic Substances and other related laws should be commensurate with the quantity of contraband recovered. The law should distinguish between the trafficking of drugs done by smugglers and that of the small-time sellers as well as the peddlers. The next one is the creating awareness among the citizens. Many a times, students and the young people may not be aware of the harmful effects of the illegal drug. Youth especially suffers from the insecurity, depression and easily fall in the hands of drug peddlers. So in order to create awareness, police organizations, security agencies, non-governmental organizations and even the schools and the colleges can create more healthier environment for youngsters to discuss on drug menace. And the last one is the establishment of de-addiction centers and the camps. There are many NGOs which run such kind of camps in India. However, they suffer from lack of manpower, lack of fundings, and even the large number of bureaucratic hurdles. So, government agencies can establish district-wise de-addiction centers and even the camps and help the NGOs to streamline the process of de-addiction among the drug users. With this discussion place, let us now move to the next article for the day. This article of the Hindu newspaper appeared on page 7th and talks about the basic difference between what parole is and what is furlough. Both these are the legal terms which are used to provide a temporary exit to the prisoners who are in a jail. According to the writer, there is no uniformity in parole as well as furlough rules which are available as a relief to the prisoners. So from the perspective of UPSC's prelim examination, because it has been seen in the last two prelim examination that UPSC has asked question with respect to legal terms. And today we are going to look into the basic difference between the parole and the furlough rules available in Indian judicial system. Now, as one can see on the screen, this is the basic classification between the parole and the furlough. Parole is provided to the prisoners to meet the specific exigency or the specific purpose that prisoner is required to fulfill. Maybe there is a death in the family of a prisoner and he has to make an emergency visit to the family member. In such a case, parole will be provided to the prisoner. On the other hand, furlough is provided only to break the monotony of an imprisonment. Let's say a prisoner is there in the prison and he has spent more than 4 years and now he is going through the mental stress. Because he is not able to meet the family members, could not spend the quality times, or maybe he is mentally and emotionally missing his loved ones. So in that case, to break down the monotony, furlough could be provided to the prisoner. Parole is granted for the short-term imprisonment only. So for instance, a person is in the jail for let's say 2 years, maybe 3 years. For him, this can be provided. But furlough belongs to the emotional breakdown of a person. Hence, it is assumed that that kind of emotional breakdown can happen in case of long-term imprisonment only. Parole is provided to the maximum of 1 month, while furlough is provided for the maximum of 14-day period. For parole, there should be the reason that should be stated. However, as furlough is not something where reason is important, it is not an emergency situation, hence there is no necessary to state any reason. The period of release does not count towards the total period of sentence, so that 1 month in which parole was provided will not be included in the overall imprisonment period of that person. On the other hand, the period of release will be counted in the case of furlough. Prisoner does not have absolute right to claim furlough. This is something which is beyond the legal perspective of Indian judicial system. Furlough is provided for the public interest in order to provide the emotional support to the prisoner, and it can be denied in the interest of the society. So it is provided for the public interest, hence the same can be denied. On the other hand, parole can be granted number of times, while furlough depends upon the condition of the patient in order to get a relief from the monotonic prisoner's life. So with this discussion, please, now we have come to the end of today's Daily News Simplified. Thank you.